Namaskar. Sometimes people ask the question that's supposed not to exist actually, but still the question is there. It proves actually that we have become we exist in the intellectual realm, not so much connected to our own body, to our own inner common sense. So the question is, if everything is consciousness, then why do I have to make an effort? Why do I have to do sadhana, a spiritual effort? Everything is already perfect. Everything is divine. Consciousness is all everywhere. And I am also myself am divine. I don't have to move anywhere. I don't have to accomplish anything. Everything is perfect. So this kind of question, I think even a child of 5 years old, if asked sincerely this question, I think the child is able to answer it by himself. But when we are under influence of some kind of twisted philosophy, then that question is relevant. Sadashiva, 7,000 years ago, he was teaching, one of his teaching was Lokavyamoh Karaka. It means those pseudo-philosophies, they poison in the minds of people. Beware of such philosophies. Why I am agreeing with Sadashiva that it is a kind of poison that exists in the mind? Because it is our very nature that we want to remove suffering and we want to achieve bliss. We want to achieve happiness. This is the most fundamental nature of every being, not only human being. Human being wants not only happiness, but infinite happiness or bliss. In Sanskrit, in Sutra, it is stated like this: Sukha anurakti paramadja vivritti. The pursuit of happiness is the most characteristic, the most deep tendency of every living being. And then Sukham Anantam Anandam. Infinite happiness is bliss. Anandam Brahma Ityaho. Brahma, or divine supreme consciousness, is Anandam, is bliss. So it is in our very nature to avoid pain, to avoid suffering, or overcome suffering, remove suffering. Like Buddha's philosophy was not to avoid suffering. Buddha's philosophy was to remove suffering. And then he discovered the Four Noble Truths. There is suffering, you should not deny it, the suffering is there. Until you see the suffering, you cannot remove it. There is a way to remove the suffering, there is a cessation of suffering, and there is a cause of suffering. So this kind of teachings he was doing. But also existed in this world one kind of philosophy, which is like a doctrine of illusion. Doctrine of illusion. That stated that Brahma Satyam, or absolute consciousness, is truth. Jagat Mithya. The universe is an illusion. The universe is an illusion. The universe does not exist. It is only the construct of the mind. That's why it is there. Your mind constructs all the time this universe. So it is a lie. It is an illusion. Truly speaking, only consciousness exists. So sounds also logically plausible. You can logically, there was this great teacher and great intellectual. His name was Adi Shankaracharya. So he propounded that kind of ideology, that kind of philosophy, that only Brahma exists, only Supreme Consciousness exists, and the universe is illusion. But it is very interesting and curious that one time a bull decided to attack this Shankaracharya. And the bull is charging. And Shankaracharya is running away with maximum speed. And then some peasants, it's like, oh, great teacher, but you are teaching that the world is an illusion. How come you are running? Why should you be running? He said, my running is also an illusion. But he didn't diminish his speed. he even, he runs even faster. So that kind of mental equilibristics you have to do if you adopt that kind of philosophy. Even today, by the way, this philosophy was not accepted by people. People understood this is not something natural. It was actually rejected by the people. It was not accepted by the core of the heart. Maybe at some level, on an intellectual level, because he was a great intellectual. He was winning many debates. He was defeating all the teachers, all the monks, and all the intellectuals of the India of those days. He was so sharp, so clear-minded. He would just finish them off. And those days tradition was like this, that if you are defeated in the debate, you must become a disciple of the victor, of the victorious one. And your disciples also have to become the disciple of him. So Shankaracharya really wiped out all the intellectuals, all the doctrines all over the India. But he was teaching this kind of impractical philosophy. But even today, some people do believe, like many teachers, they also say about spontaneous enlightenment. Just remove your ego and you will be enlightened. Everything is perfect, nothing to do, no need to do anything. Just remove your ego. This sounds good, but in practicality it has never ever happened. Because if you understand, yes, everything is consciousness, but you have to understand what is consciousness. Consciousness is not only bliss. Consciousness can exist in many forms. Nothing is but consciousness here. But this is consciousness also. This is consciousness. This is consciousness. Why they're so different? So there is this idea that Shiva, Shakti, Atmakam, Brahma. Combination of Shiva and Shakti. The combination of consciousness and energy is Brahma. So consciousness in pure form, when it is not affected at all by Shakti, by the force of nature, it is just bliss. It is pure bliss. So the one definition of consciousness is Satchidananda. Sat, eternal, Chid, it is conscious, it is aware, it is a pure awareness, and it is blissful. So the pure form of consciousness is bliss. And then consciousness can be modified by Shakti or by Prakriti. When Sattva Guna modifies consciousness, consciousness still carries this characteristic of joy, of happiness, of pleasure. When Rajaguna modifies the consciousness, these gunas, they are the forces of Prakriti, the forces of nature, of natural creative force. So when Rajaguna, the dynamic principle, modifies consciousness, there is both pain and pleasure. And when the Tamaguna modifies the consciousness, there is pain. There is pain. So, but in Tamaguna, there are ways to remove the pain by becoming unconscious. Like the stone doesn't feel any pain because the consciousness is unmanifest. It is sleeping. So there is a kind of painkiller approach like alcohol. Alcohol is Tamaguna. If you take alcohol, it doesn't cure you. It is not a medicine, but it can be a painkiller. And there are philosophies like that, and this philosophy is in that category. So the philosophy that teaches you that everything is perfect already, you don't have to do any effort. It sounds very, very pleasing to the ears, isn't it? I am already perfect, wonderful. I will just remove the ego and, everything is fantastic. But it doesn't cure you. It doesn't inspire you to make an effort to liberate yourself. Rather, it inspires you that no need to do anything. Just let go of everything. Just stop trying and everything will manifest. No, leave this Rajaguna, leave this ego, and you will be enlightened. But it never happened like that. It has never happened like that. And many teachers, they teach, they say, no, just remove the ego. And really, truly great teachers, truly saints. So when they got enlightened, they realized actually everything is consciousness, everything is perfect. Just need to remove the ego. But they themselves, they practice sadhana for 20, 30, 40 years, and God knows how many past lives they practice sadhana. And now they say, oh, I got spontaneously enlightened. It never happens. You see, like a river, in winter, the river is covered by ice. So you go, the winter is over and the spring starts. So you go, you see the river is still covered by ice. Another day you come, still covered by ice. And another day you come, no ice. All the ice has been removed by the current of the river. And you can say, wow, spontaneously, just suddenly the river has been awakened and it opened up. But it doesn't happen like that. It doesn't happen suddenly. In the ice, there are molecules which come alive with the temperature. They are moving. They are not anymore crystallized. They are not anymore in this grid of the crystallic grid of the ice. They are moving. And they're pushing also others. Hey, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. So when there are enough of these moving molecules, then the ice cracks and next day you don't see the ice. The water current overcomes it, removes all the ice. But they will process. If you put consciousness and energy, right? Consciousness, energy. Energy modifies consciousness and gives the form to the consciousness. So let's say I give you example of from normal life. There is one chunk of ice. It is H2O. It is water. It can be liquid. It can be also gaseous. But it is now ice. It is solid. So how do you transform that solid into gas, into gaseous form? Only by giving energy to this block of ice. So you put on the gas stove in the pot, and then you start the gas on, and it will be heating, heating, heating. First it will become liquid, then it starts to evaporate. It will become a gas. So you must give energy, otherwise it will not happen. No enlightenment without energy. So every time when you sit for meditation, when you make an effort to better yourself, you are creating the friction. Even there is one kind of shloka, it says, Svadiham aranim kritva pranavancha uttaranim. Your body, your mind, your organism, just like a lower wood. And your mantra is like an upper piece of wood. In the ancient times, they would produce the fire by friction of the two pieces of wood against each other. So you use your mantra, use your sadhana, your spiritual practice as the upper piece of the wood, and yourself as the lower piece of wood. So you create the friction between your mind, your body, and the mantra. And then the result will be fire, spiritual fire. And that spiritual fire is going to dissolve. It is going to burn all the bondages that you have. So this is what enlightenment is. You work, you do sadhana, you make an effort, you make an effort, you make an effort. You increase the temperature inside of yourself. So-called temperature. In your consciousness, the grade of consciousness goes up. It goes from tamaguna, very, very dormant kind of consciousness, to Raja Guna, then to Sattva Guna, then beyond the Gunas, the consciousness starts to evaporate. That's what the condition of enlightenment is this. When you evaporate, you become free. You are not anymore bound by the forces of nature. So that's what happens. And yes, it can happen like spontaneously, but if you have done your work before. So that's why this philosophy that everything is already perfect is not practical. Is not practical. Rather, it is against Dharma, against spiritual nature. Our spiritual nature is to make an effort. When we feel happy, when we triumph, when we overcome the obstacles, when we struggle, and then we are victorious, that time we feel happiness, that time we feel joy. So, and that joy, that happiness is a sign that we are on the right path. This kind of philosophy that everything is permissible, that everything is already perfect, everything is enlightened, rather it may motivate you to give up on your efforts. And that is why it runs ultra wires to spirituality. So we should not support that kind of philosophy. Even though everything is consciousness, so in our philosophy we say Brahma Satyam, consciousness is reality, is truth. Jagadapi Satyam, universe is also truth, apekshikam, but relative. It is relative, and ant perceive one version of universe. Me, another version of the universe. You, another version of the universe. So this creation, it exists, but it is relative to a perceiver. There are many angles to see this universe. And from the viewpoint of God, it is also existing in his mind. It is a dream. It is a fantasy of the divine. But the very existence of this fantasy cannot be denied. It does exist. And for us, it is a very hardcore reality. So, one should not use this philosophy as a painkiller. Oh, I'm perfect, everything perfect. No, you're not perfect. Potentially you are perfect. But now not. Accept the bitter truth and work on yourself. The truth is a medicine. This type of lie, false philosophy, is a painkiller only. It can numb the pain of existence, but it can never cure the problem. So, what to do? One needs to do sadhana, spiritual practice. This is the best thing to do in life. Whoever inspires you to do sadhana, spiritual practice, is your friend. Whoever inspires you to struggle, to overcome difficulties, to develop yourself, to develop in society, to develop in your spirituality, that person is your friend. Whoever gives you pleasant lies, that, oh, everything is perfect, no need to do anything, is your enemy. Because goes against Dharma, against spirituality. Your Dharma is to, just like a river, move ahead, push aside all the obstacles, become a strong river, and then enter into ocean, become great divine ocean. So this is what is going to happen to us. Okay, I think I have explained enough. I am anticipating a holy war in the comments. I think there are many viewpoints regarding this matter. So whatever you think, you please write in the comments. I am not very often answering the comments, but I am always reading the comments. And sometimes these comments, they inspire me to do some other videos, and I can, if questions are there, I will swallow them, digest them, and produce another video. So thank you for your commenting, and yeah, and do your sadhana, your spiritual practice, very happily, very strongly also. When you sit for meditation, be powerful, be very powerful. When your mind is just like a jelly, it's not inspiring. When the mind runs in 1,000 different directions, it is not inspiring. But when the mind has become just like a laser beam, when the mind has become focused, strong, powerful, flowing, it is inspiring. So you sit in meditation like that. I am with my entire strength of my heart and mind. I am moving on the path of spirituality. I am trying to realize the inner spirit of the mantra. I am trying to sense and touch and catch the divinity and realize and understand that I am divine consciousness. It's just like boiling the water. It is boiling. You are divine consciousness, but you are to realize that, and you are to remove all the imperfections. So, thank you for watching. Namaskar.